In this edition of RPP News, older locals are left to fend for themselves. We say farewell to a boxing great, and Eileen Thickamatana brings home the gold. Hello, I'm Catie Sharp. Welcome to the latest edition of RPP News, bringing you stories from across Frankston and the Mornington Peninsula. Frankston detectives have charged a man following a series of sexual offences in Seaford. It is alleged a man exposed himself in 2 incidents in Keast Park on the Nepean Highway on Tuesday the 28th of June. A 34-year-old Langwarrin man was arrested on Thursday and has been charged with multiple offences relating to indecent behaviour in a public place and with committing an indictable offence while on bail. He appeared at Frankston Magistrates Court to face the charges. Dromana's Eileen Thickamatana has become one of Peninsula's greatest ever all-time athletes, breaking records to bring home gold from the Birmingham Commonwealth Games. The 22-year-old dominated the women's 87-kilo weightlifting category to win Australia's first weightlifting gold medal. She lifted a Games record-breaking 110 kilograms with her second attempt in the snatch. Thickamatana's second clean and jerk lift of 137 kilos won the gold medal and also set the clean and jerk and overall Games records. The Fiji-born champion is also the first woman to win Commonwealth gold for 2 countries, having moved to Australia from her home country some years earlier. The Fiji-born champion is also the first woman to win Commonwealth gold for 2 countries, having moved to Australia from her home country some years earlier. Thickamatana works with legendary coach Paul Coffer at the Ocean Weightlifting Centre in Dromana. She now has her eye on Olympic gold in Paris in 2 years' time. A new analysis of rental data released to coincide with Homelessness Week revealed that rent across the Mornington Peninsula has surged 6.9%, with average rents now sitting at $510 per week, making it the most expensive regional area in Victoria. The figures reinforce concerns raised by advocacy groups and local councils that there is a housing affordability crisis across Frankston and the Peninsula. Dunkley MP Peter Murphy used a speech in federal parliament to confirm her election pledge of creating emergency housing for young people in the Frankston area. She shared the story of Jack to emphasise the fact that there is currently no youth crisis accommodation in Dunkley.
He spent a couple of nights on a friend's couch before he ended up sleeping in a garage. It was very cold, he said, and he was wandering around Frankston because he didn't know what to do next. He came across a youth hangout and someone offered him a sausage in bread, and he said to them, "I just have nowhere to go."
Ms Murphy told RPP she is honour-bound to keep her pledge after meeting with lobby groups and care providers prior to the election.
They asked all of the candidates for Dunkley and for Flinders to sign a pledge to say that we would advocate for youth crisis and transitional housing, because we amazingly don't have any in the Frankston-Mornington Peninsula region, notwithstanding that youth homelessness increased by 50% during COVID. And having been the only candidate for Dunkley who signed that pledge, I have to live up to my commitment.
The Australian Services Union is lamenting changes to our local home care system. On June the 30th, a number of councils, including the Mornington Peninsula Shire, opted to hand over home care services to private suppliers. The Shire was providing care services for some 4,000 home care clients until that date, and the ASU claims some home care residents are still without services over a month later. Joe McAvoy of the ASU told RPP they have lodged a complaint with the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commissioner, stating the new providers were unprepared, and as a consequence, some clients have been left to fend for themselves.
The reason that we're so upset about this is that if councils retained the service, we wouldn't be in this problem. The very fact that councils have withdrawn from the services and, handed it over to private providers who, the Royal Commission has been quite open about the failures of, some of the private providers. That's where the issue lies. Councils who provide this service are exceptional. They're gold standard. They're not mentioned in Royal Commissions, and we don't have clients, or workers complaining about it.
Frankston lost one of its favourite sons this week when boxing icon Johnny Famishin passed away at the age of 77. Johnny's stunning career included 56 wins, 20 of which were by knockout, 6 draws and 5 losses. He defeated Johnny O'Brien in 1967 to become Commonwealth Featherweight Champion and became WBC Featherweight World Champion in 1969, defeating Jose Legra at London's Albert Hall. Famishin was inducted into the Sport Australia Hall of Fame in 1985 and into the World Boxing Hall of Fame in 1997. A resident of Frankston for decades, Famishin is also an inductee of the Frankston City Hall of Fame. In 2018, a bronze statue immortalising the boxing icon was unveiled at Ballon Park. The statue has been roped off for those wishing to head down and pay their respects. And the winner of the Frankston Arts Centre Open Exhibition Competition 2022 has been announced. 17-year-old Warringmoo teenager Sebi Johnson has won top honours with his joyous photographic self-portrait titled Seb and Early. This year's artist explored the theme belonging, and Sebi's photograph is a self-portrait with his dog Early taken in his garden. A sports-mad teenager, Sebi lost his eyesight at the age of 14 after falling through a roof in Dramana. Prior to the accident, he had played for Dramana Football Club, Mornington Baseball Club and Dramana Cricket Club. In 2019, he joined the AFL Blind League, playing for Hawthorn Football Club. Sebi's prize includes an exhibition and opening event at Frankston Arts Centre in 2023 and a cash prize of $1,000. The competition artworks, including Sebi's stunning photograph, are on display at Frankston Arts Centre's Cube 37 Gallery until the 25th of August. Now we go to David Robertson with this week's Bendigo Bank Market Update.
Cost of living pressures continue to build, but the jobs market is as strong as ever. Our latest thoughts on the economic outlook here and abroad after the recent RBA rate hike. The Reserve Bank's third successive 0.5% rate rise in August confirms they are on track to get the official cash rate back to neutral by year end. And recent RBA speeches suggest that neutral is somewhere between 2.5% and 3.5%. Whether they pause at neutral or feel the need to move to more restrictive policy settings is one of the key unknowns, along with how quickly supply-side issues and the much higher energy costs can normalise, plus how our economy will cope with around 3% of rate hikes in under a year. The latest increase in the cash rate up to 1.85% we expect will probably be followed with 3 more over the next few months, likely to be smaller increments of only 0.25%, taking us to just below 3% by year end. As the chart shows, we are now back at 2016 levels for cash, but real rates, taking core inflation into account, are still negative, and the latest CPI report and associated forecasts from Treasury suggest inflation will be above the RBA target for at least another year. The Reserve Bank will publish a full set of economic forecasts on Friday in their quarterly statement, but ahead of that have already updated their forecasts for CPI to still be up at 4% at the end of 2023 and for GDP growth to slow to only 1.75% next year and again in 2024. So, while there is some market commentary that the RBA may be cutting rates next year, a more plausible scenario is a plateau in rates at about 3% rather than a peak, given the new world of higher inflation and also the strong jobs market. Our unemployment rate is down to a 48-year low of 3.5%, and total employment up to a record high of 13.6 million, which, as the chart shows, is inconsistent with what we would normally see in a recession. So assuming demand for labour remains strong, helped by the government supporting businesses by accelerating net migration and skilled labour to Australia, this should see a soft landing for the economy, albeit one with a much slower growth rate next year. And, as we mentioned last month, unemployment slightly higher next year at 4%. The geopolitical backdrop is as challenging as ever, and while our economy will decelerate, many others around the world will go into reverse under the pressure of the global energy and inflation shock. So the outlook here is one of outperformance, but households and businesses challenged by higher costs and less demand from overseas. Fortunately, the latest data shows that household savings are still near record highs. So these buffers that have been accumulated during the pandemic will be needed to deal with higher interest rates and inflated costs of goods and services. Higher interest rates are an immediate issue for those with a variable rate mortgage, but everyone is being impacted by the global inflation surge. And lastly, property values continue to ease in capital cities as interest rates rise, while regional property is proving more resilient. but all asset values will adjust to a cash rate around 3% above its pandemic emergency setting, so we still expect a 10 to 15% decline for houses from peak to trough before the next upswing. The difference ahead, though, may well lie in a more stubborn core inflation rate. So as the latest Productivity Commission report argues, the economy needs a sharper policy focus on productivity measures to sustainably lift real wages and prosperity. And that's the market update from Bendigo Bank.
After the break, we have Leah with this week's weather report.
Everyone knows Australia has 4 big banks. But there's another big bank snapping at their heels. It's been around for over 160 years, has 1.9 million customers nationwide who bank in branch, online or with their mobile app, and is regularly voted one of Australia's most trusted brands. Who is this bank that has everyone's attention? Welcome to Bendigo Bank, the better big bank.
Established in 1988, Progress Signs has been servicing the local community for 30 years. Located on the Mornington Peninsula, they are the #1 destination for all your signage needs, specialising in a variety of signage from vehicles to shop fronts, occasional and corporate events, short-term, long-term and everything in between. If it's signs you need, be it large or small, Progress Signs is the place to call. Available 24/7 at progress-signs.com.au or call the team on 5975 9188. Thinking signs? Think Progress Signs, a station sponsor.
Hello, it's Leah here again with this week's RPP weather update. Well, it was a lot warmer this week than we had expected and not as wet. But that changed late last Friday when we saw some rain return. Let's dive in and see if this trend is to continue. Today, Sunday the 7th of August, saw the rain continue with rainfall over 80% of the peninsula. We had a high of 13 and a low of 6. Monday sees the rain retreating to reveal a mostly cloudy day with a high of 13 and a low of 5. Tuesday sees much the same as Monday with a high of 13 and a low of 3. And Wednesday, the 10th of August, sees a 30% chance of rain returning to the peninsula. Expect a high of 14 and a low of 3. Thursday sees the rain returning in force with a 70% chance of intense rain across the peninsula. Expect a high of 13 and a low of 7. Friday brings even more rain with a top of 14 and a low of 7. And finally, Saturday sees the rain easing a bit, bringing us a high of 14 and a low of 6. Well, that's all for this week. Nicola will be back next week, so until then, please take good care, enjoy your week, bye for now.
And now to our surf guru Muzz with the Surf Report.
Hey, it's Muzz back with this week's Peninsula Surf Report. A week I promised a lot, didn't deliver much. Delivered a couple of okay days on the beaches and a couple of offshore days, but it's been pretty windy offshore. But the promised swell that was looking like it was going to appear last week hasn't appeared. There's a slim chance that tomorrow afternoon there'll be a slight jump in the swell, which will be Friday, but it's nothing going to be too outstanding. Wind will be okay, it'll be northwest. So there might be small waves on the afternoon high tide in Western Port, but it is only going to be small and probably too much northwest in it for the beaches. That looks like how it's going to be. Swell's really not going to improve. It's going to sort of go up and down a little bit. But by Sunday, it looks like it's going to go onshore for a day or two. Then early to midway through next week, the wind will swing back around to the north-northeast by the looks of it. So there should be some beach breaks. Looks like maybe Tuesday will be the peak of it. Wednesday could be a bit solid on the beaches, but there should be some banks holding it, and the wind should be the most favourable, and that'll go into next Thursday. So not the best report you could have, but still not a bad one. Better than it was, but it's a lot of room for improvement. So I hope you're surfing. The weather is improving. The sun's coming out a bit more, and it's a little bit warmer. So that's one upside. All right, enjoy. Hope you get wet.
And that's all from our team here at RPP News, serving the community with stories that matter to you. Keep watching and do tell your friends. Bring you the news from coast to coast across Frankston and the Mornington Peninsula. I'm Catie Sharp. See you for the next edition.